back here again with another video. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different than what you guys are used to seeing. We're introducing a new car to the channel. This is my dad's 2015 Mustang GT Premium Pack. I know I promised you guys some drift content on the Z, but the past two events that I went to, I was just really focused on trying to learn the track and really get used to my car and learn how things work around there. I really want to give you guys detailed and focused content that's going to be good for you guys to watch, rather than just me give you some like half-ass content that's just going to be a hodgepodge of video clips really. But now that my dad's here, we are going to start modding his Mustang. So for all my Mustang guys, if there's any of you, I hope you guys look forward to seeing this, because we're going to have a lot of fun with this car. So what we got going on the car today is a set of these BMR motor mounts, as well as these ceramic coated BBK long tube headers. So the reason for these motor mounts is we got a Cobra Jet intake manifold that we're going to be putting on the car, and they never really made a kit that's specific to the 15 plus Mustangs. So with these, it'll lower the engine, that way you don't have to cut the hood or get a cowl hood or anything, since my dad wants to keep the stock hood on the car. So our other alternative is to get lowered engine mounts, and that'll be able to drop the engine down slightly enough to where we'll be able to fit the Cobra Jet on the car. But that's going to be it for another video. So for today, it's just the motor mounts and the headers. And if you've ever done headers on a car, or if you know somebody who has, you can ask them, especially on a 5.0. I'm in for a treat. The first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is set the jack up under the bell housing of the transmission. That way when we remove the motor mounts, the engine doesn't sag and it doesn't fall. I attempted to use the engine brace that mounts from the top, but there just really isn't any good mounting points. So this is the solution that I came up with, obviously. So that's what we're going to start off with. Now we're going to get under the car, and we're going to start looking around and seeing what we need to remove first. All right, so we're going to go ahead and knock these bolts out right here. They are 15mm bolts. Now that we got this bolts removed, we'll be able to remove this part of the exhaust whenever the time comes. I ended up having to remove the entire catback exhaust. That way I can get the other mid pipes out. So this is it right here. It was very simple. It was literally just two hanger bolts right here, or one here and one here, and then two hanger bolts on either side of the back, and it slides right out. So it's very simple. So yeah, now that we got that out of the way, and go back to the front under the car, and we're going to remove that bottom bolt that connects the other side of the mid pipe to the bottom of the header. All right, so now that we got the cat back off, we're going to go ahead and remove the O2 sensors. For now, we're just going to unplug them off of this harness right here from the transmission, and then we'll remove it from the bung whenever we remove the piece off the car. Just make things a little bit easier for yourself. So there's just a button on the top, or like a little tab on the top. You'll press that down and you'll be able to pull it right off. All right, so now we're going to remove this bolt off the top of the catalytic converter and the bottom of the exhaust manifold, and we're going to do the same thing on the top. All right, so I was having a hard time trying to get the top bolt from the catalytic converter off the exhaust manifold. I had to get this breaker bar with all these extensions with a 15mm, and I just fed it in through the side right here. I don't know if you can see through there. I fed it in through the side, and I was able to get on the bolt and remove it from the top, because there really isn't any space to remove it from the bottom. So with that now removed, we're gonna go ahead and start on the passenger side header. But first, before we do the header, we are going to remove the motor mount on this side. It's hard to tell from the top, but we are gonna have to remove the motor mount bolts from the top. It's just easier to get to them. So we're gonna go ahead and remove, there's one bolt that bolts to the actual like motor mount bushing, and then there's, I think, 2 to 4, I'm not really sure, 2 to 4 that bolt to the actual block of the engine. So we're gonna go ahead and go into the car and remove those bolts. Just came up on this Craftsman toolbox. Got the whole setup now. Got our racks, toolbox. This is Dad right here. If you guys haven't met him, this is Mr. Drift Bomb Senior. All right, so for the motor mount bolts, there's 4 bolts on the motor mount. There's a bolt here, right there, one right here behind the starter, and then one right on the other side. These 3 are 14 millimeter. The one on the other side is a 15 millimeter. So you should be able to just get a ratchet in there. There's kind of plenty of room to get it in there, so it should be good. And then there's also one more bolt right here on top of the bushing for the motor mount, and we're gonna have to get that one from the top of the car. All right, so we got all the bolts out from the motor mount on the bottom. Now we're gonna go around the top and remove that top bolt. Like I said, it's gonna be right up here above the bushing. All right, guys, so we got the motor mount out. It's looking good, looking good. Now we're gonna go ahead and take this starter off, and then we'll be on our way to get this header out. We're almost there. All right, so we started removing the header bolts. There's 8 bolts in the stock manifolds. The only 2 that were pretty difficult to get to was this one in the front at the top of the motor and all the way towards the front of the car, and there's one all the way in the back at the bottom that's kind of being blocked by where the collector is. Otherwise, all the other bolts fairly simple to get to. I don't know if you can see. That's the last bolt I'm getting off right now, and we'll have the header out and it'll be time to put some new headers in the car. All right, we got all the header bolts out now. Don't forget to unclip the O2 sensor off of here. We'll just remove it once we have it out of the car. All right, and the header is out, boys. Yes, sir. All right, the gaskets still look pretty good, honestly. It looked pretty darn good. There we go. Now we're gonna test fit our new headers and see if we're able to retain all of these studs, because I know depending on the headers that you have, you may need to remove the studs from certain spots. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the BBK long tubes and go ahead and test fit them up here and see how it fits. All right, guys, so we got this header completely in. It's tightened down. And give you a heads up, so you're able to get these 4 from the bottom, no problem. This back one as well. There's this one bolt that you put here in the back. You'll be able to get that one from the back as well. And then there's this bolt right there, that one. It seems kind of hard to get to, but you're gonna have to put it in through the top, and then when you tighten it down, you'll be able to get just a box end wrench or just a ratcheting wrench and just slide it in behind, like back here, and you'll have some range of motion to tighten that down right there. Now, the ones that I'm not able to get down from here, well, I would be able to get this one, but it's very little range of motion, so I'm gonna go on the top and tighten this one down from the top, and then tighten the one all the way to the top front down. But I got all these down, and then the 2 back at the top. So after this, we're gonna go ahead and throw the motor mount in, the BMR motor mount that we got. All right, so now we're gonna take this BMR motor mount and set it back in place. All right, so I got the motor mount bolted completely in here, and I got it bolted in on the top right over here. So we're all done with this side. All we need to do on this side is throw the starter back in. I'm not gonna show that because it's literally the exact same way you take it out. It's just these 3 bolts right here. I don't know if you see this bolt right here, this bolt, and that bolt to take the starter out. See right there? And then just these 2 clips right there get bolted back onto the starter. Very simple. All right, so now that we got the passenger side done, we're gonna come around to the driver's side and we're gonna remove this intake assembly. That way we can have access to the header from the top side, just in case we need to get to some of the bolts from the top. So first, we're gonna go ahead and remove this intake assembly. All right, so on the intake side, first thing I'm gonna remove is this bolt right here next to the intake box. Just gonna go ahead and pull that bolt off. It's a 10mm. Should come right out. Now we can go ahead and loosen this clamp right here that attaches the air box to the actual piping or tubing. And then you're also gonna wanna remove this off of the air box. It kind of just slides into place right there. So you should be able to just kind of move it out of the way. All right, so we got the entire air box out. There's no need to take all this off just because it's not really in the way at all. There's plenty of space to work down there now. So now that we're done with this portion, we're gonna go back under the car and do the driver's side header. So now we're back under the car on the driver's side. And one thing you're gonna have to remove is the steering shaft. So I went ahead and got a paint marker and marked off so I can make sure to realign it properly once I have it back on the car. But this piece right here, this nut or bolt, is a T40 or Torx bit. 40. So it's gonna go ahead and remove that one. All right, so I got the steering shaft out. Basically, you'll just loosen this bolt right here, and then it should slide up. You should be able to pull it up a little bit and get it out. All right, y'all, so we're all done now. We got the headers in, the motor mounts, the mid pipes, we got the catback installed, and then we also did install the O2 sensor extensions on the car. I didn't show the driver's side header since it's basically the same thing. Actually, it's a little bit easier, if anything, but I did show you guys taking off the steering linkage, which is basically the only difference between either side, or one of the only differences. It just has a little bit more space. The motor mount looks slightly different, but other than that, it's essentially the same thing. All right, so if you can tell how low the engine's actually sitting, there's a good amount of space between this guard right here and the engine. It dropped down around ½ an inch, but it's actually a pretty big difference. You're able to visually tell. All right, you guys, we're about to do the first startup after the headers. See how this thing sounds. Loud as hell. Hell yeah. Alright, y'all, well, this is gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We had a blast getting this stuff installed, and the car sounds so much better now than it did before, and we're probably gonna get a lot of gains from it once we get our car tuned. We also got something coming up for you guys very, very soon next. So you guys just stay tuned so you guys can watch out for that. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all later.